Morgan Freeman's voice can make millions, but did you know he's using it to make billions? That's right, the man behind the iconic narrations is sitting on a fortune that'll make your jaw drop. We're talking secret investments, unexpected business ventures, and philanthropic moves that are paying off big time. Freeman's not just acting, he's building an empire that's set to rival some of the biggest names in the game. Ready to see how deep this rabbit hole goes? From $250 million to secret billions. Morgan Freeman's $250 million net worth might seem impressive, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. This Hollywood legend has been quietly building an empire that goes way beyond his acting paychecks. We're talking hidden investments, smart business moves, and a financial portfolio that'd make Wall Street bigwigs jealous. Sure, $250 million puts Freeman in the same league as other A-list actors like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. But here's the kicker. While those guys are mostly known for their on-screen work, Freeman's been hustling behind the scenes, turning his fame into a money-making machine. Now you might be thinking, Freeman's always been rolling in dough, right? Wrong. This guy started from the bottom for real. Back in the day, Freeman was struggling so hard he couldn't even afford a car. He was taking the bus to auditions, scraping by on small theater gigs, but that's what makes his rise to the top even more impressive. Freeman didn't just sit back and wait for the big roles to come in. He got smart with his money. So what's Freeman been up to that's got his bank account looking like a phone number? Well, that's where things get interesting. We're talking about investments in tech startups that could be the next big thing, real estate deals that'd make Donald Trump sweat, and business ventures in industries you'd never expect to see Morgan Freeman's name attached to. But here's the real mind bender. All this stuff is just what we know about. The truth is, a lot of Freeman's business moves are kept under wraps. He's not the type to brag about his wealth or show off on social media. Nah, Freeman's playing the long game, building wealth in ways that don't make headlines. Think about it. If Freeman's known net worth is $250 million, and that's just based on his public acting career and a few known investments, what's the real number? We're talking about a guy who's been in the game for decades, making smart moves and leveraging his fame to open doors that most people can't even see. And let's not forget about the power of compound interest. Freeman's been in the money game long enough for his early investments to have grown into something massive. We're talking potential returns that could make his acting salary look like pocket change. So what's the real number? Well, that's the million-dollar question, or should we say billion-dollar question? Because when you add up all the known assets, the suspected investments, the business ventures, and the potential returns on decades of smart financial moves, you start to realize that Freeman's wealth could easily be in the billions. Now, we're not saying Morgan Freeman's secretly richer than Jeff Bezos or anything crazy like that, but it wouldn't be surprising if his true net worth was way higher than what's reported. We're talking potentially double, triple, or even more than that $250 million figure. But here's the thing. We may never know the true extent of Freeman's wealth. He's not the type to show off or brag about his money. Instead, he's been quietly building his empire, making moves that'll keep his great-grandkids living large. And it all started with one major business venture that changed the game for Freeman, a move that took him from just being an actor to being a player in Hollywood. We're talking about a company that's been cranking out hits and raking in cash for over 2 decades, but that's a whole other story, one that's going to blow your mind when you hear about it. Revelations, entertainment, Freeman's Hollywood power play. You thought Freeman was just good at playing God on screen? Hold up. Back in '97, he pulled a move so boss it's still shaking up Hollywood today. We're talking about a company that turned Freeman from actor to straight-up mogul. And get this, it wasn't even a thing most celebs were doing back then. Enter Revelations Entertainment, the game-changing production company Freeman co-founded with producer Laurie McCreary in 1997. These two weren't just trying to make movies, they were on a mission to mix up art and tech in a way nobody had done before. And let me tell you, they hit the jackpot. Now you gotta understand, back in the 90s, actors starting their own production companies wasn't exactly common. Most stars were content just showing up on set, saying their lines and cashing their checks. But Freeman? Nah, he saw the bigger picture. He knew that to really make it in Hollywood, you gotta be the one calling the shots. So what's Revelations been cooking up all these years? Some serious hits, that's what. Ever heard of Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman? That's right, that mind-bending science show that had us all questioning reality. That's a Revelations joint. And it ain't just some niche program either. We're talking Emmy-nominated stuff here. But Revelations ain't just about TV. They've been crushing it in the movie game too. Remember Invictus? The one where Freeman played Nelson Mandela so well you forgot it wasn't actually Mandela on screen. Yeah, that was Revelations too. And it didn't just impress critics, it got nominated for an Academy Award. That's the kind of quality we're talking about here. Now you might be wondering how all this translates to cold, hard cash. Well, let me break it down for you. In Hollywood, production companies are like money printing machines if you know what you're doing. And Freeman, he definitely knows what he's doing. See, when a production company puts out a hit, they're not just making money from people buying tickets. Nah, that's just the start. We're talking home video sales, TV licensing deals, streaming rights. The list goes on. And every time someone watches that movie or show, cha-ching, more money in Freeman's pocket. But here's where it gets really interesting. Revelations isn't just sticking to one lane. They've been branching out into documentaries too. And in today's streaming crazy world, docs are big business. It's like Freeman's got a crystal ball or something, always one step ahead of the game. Now, Revelations keeps their financial info pretty close to the chest. But considering the success of their projects and how long they've been in the game, we're talking about some serious cash flow here. It wouldn't be crazy to think Revelations is pulling in tens of millions each year, maybe even more. And remember, this is just one piece of Freeman's empire, one very successful, very lucrative piece. It's moves like this that separate the mega rich from the just plain rich in Hollywood. While other actors are waiting for their next big role, Freeman's out here creating his own opportunities, his own content, his own revenue streams. The unexpected blues mogul. Now you might think Freeman's all about that Hollywood glitz, but hold up. This man's got a side hustle that'll have you singing a different tune. Ever heard of a little place called Ground Zero Blues Club? Yeah, that's Freeman's joint, and it's not in LA or New York. We're talking Clarksdale, Mississippi, the birthplace of the blues. But why would a Hollywood heavyweight like Freeman be investing in a blues club in the middle of nowhere? Trust me, there's more to this story than just good music and cold beer. Back in 2001, while other celebs were busy launching overpriced vodkas or slapping their names on fragrances, Freeman was cooking up something totally different. He teamed up with his buddy Bill Luckett to open Ground Zero Blues Club right in the heart of blues country. Their goal? To create a spot where you could get some good grub and listen to live music all in one place. Sounds simple, right? But in Clarksdale, it was filling a gap that needed filling. Now, you might be wondering why Clarksdale's such a big deal. Well, let me school you real quick. This little city in the Mississippi Delta ain't just any old town, it's ground zero for the blues. We're talking about the birthplace of legends like Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker. It's where Robert Johnson supposedly sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. Clarksdale's got more blues history in its streets than most cities have in their museums. And Freeman's Club, it's become a straight-up cultural landmark. We're not just talking about locals coming in for a beer after work. Nah, Ground Zero's pulling in music lovers and tourists from all over the world. It's like a pilgrimage site for blues fanatics. You got people flying in from Japan, driving down from Canada, all to get a taste of that authentic Delta blues experience. The club's hosted some serious heavy hitters in the blues world too. We're talking about artists that make guitar strings weep and harmonicas wail. And it ain't just about the music. Ground Zero's playing a huge role in keeping the blues alive and kicking. It's like Freeman's personal mission to make sure this slice of American music history doesn't fade away. But here's where things get really interesting. This ain't just some vanity project for Freeman. Nah, this club's part of a bigger picture. See, the blues music industry in Mississippi, it's got some serious economic potential. We're talking tourism dollars, baby. People come for the music, but they stay for the food, the hotels, the whole experience. And Ground Zero? It's right at the center of it all, cashing in on that blues tourism boom. So while Freeman might not be making Marvel money from this club, he's definitely not losing sleep over it either. The club's success is proof that Freeman's got a golden touch even outside of Hollywood. He took his star power, mixed it with his love for the blues, and created a spot that's not just making money, but making history too. But don't think for a second that this is all about the cash for Freeman. Nah, this club means something to him. It's his way of paying respect to the music that's deeply rooted in Mississippi's soul. Freeman's been quoted saying how important the blues is to him, how it's an essential part of American music history. This club? It's his way of making sure that history stays alive. Freeman's 124-acre money-making ranch. Freeman's got this massive ranch in Mississippi, right? But he ain't raising cattle or growing corn. Nah, he's cultivating something way smaller but way more valuable. We're talking about a tiny creature that's worth billions to the global economy, and Freeman, he's got them by the millions. That's right, we're talking about bees. Freeman's turned his 124-acre spread in Mississippi into a full-on bee sanctuary. Now, you might be thinking, bees? Really? But hold up, because this ain't just some random celebrity hobby. This is Freeman playing 4D chess while the rest of us are still figuring out checkers. See, bees are in trouble, big trouble. We're talking about nearly 30% of honeybee colonies in the US dying off in 2019 alone. That's not just bad news for honey lovers, it's a potential disaster for our whole food system. Bees pollinate a ton of our crops, and without them, we'd be in a world of hurt. So Freeman's not just helping out some buzzy little insects, he's taking on a global crisis. And get this, he's doing it in style. Freeman's so chill with his bees, he doesn't even need to wear one of those funky beekeeper suits. He told Jimmy Fallon on Late Night that he just rolls up to the hives like it's no big deal. Talk about a boss move. But here's where it gets really interesting. Freeman's bee sanctuary isn't just good for the planet, it could be good for his wallet too. The US honey market, it's worth a cool $1.2 billion. That's billion with a B. And with consumers going crazy for sustainable, locally sourced products, honey from Morgan Freeman's bee sanctuary could be liquid gold. And it's not just about the honey. Ecotourism is blowing up, with more and more people wanting to get up close and personal with nature. Imagine being able to visit Morgan Freeman's ranch, learn about beekeeping, and maybe even hear the man himself talk about his buzzy friends. That's the kind of experience people would pay big bucks for. Plus, celebrity-endorsed agricultural products are becoming a thing. It's not just about slapping a famous face on a bottle anymore. People want products with a story, with a mission, and what's got a better story than honey from Morgan Freeman's personal bee sanctuary? That's the kind of thing that could fly off the shelves faster than you can say, get busy living or get busy dying. But Freeman's not just in it for the money. This is a guy who's always been about more than just his next paycheck. By turning his ranch into a bee sanctuary, he's showing that you can do good for the planet and potentially do well financially at the same time. It's like he's giving a masterclass in sustainable business practices. The voice that launched 1,000 deals. Remember when Freeman said he was done surprising us? Well, hold on to your hats, because his next move is pure genius. It turns out the key to Freeman's empire isn't just what he does on screen. It's what comes out of his mouth off screen. And trust me, this payday makes his Hollywood checks look like chump change. We all know Morgan Freeman's voice, that smooth, rich baritone that could make a grocery list sound like the word of God. But what you might not know is that Freeman's turned his iconic pipes into a serious money-making machine. We're not just talking about narrating movies here. Freeman's voice is a brand all on its own, and it's raking in the dough. Now you might be thinking, sure, voiceover work pays well, but it can't be that much better than acting, right? Wrong. While A-list actors can pull in millions for a single film, that's months of work. Voice acting, that's a whole different ballgame. Top-tier celebs like Freeman can command anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 for a single voiceover gig, and that's just for your average Joe celeb. For a voice as recognizable as Freeman's, we're talking potential paydays north of $100,000 for major projects. But Freeman ain't just lending his voice to any old commercial. Nah, he's selective, which only drives up his value. He's been the voice of Visa, lending his gravitas to their Everywhere You Want to Be campaign. He's narrated ads for big players like McDonald's and Mountain Dew. And let's not forget about his work for PBS, narrating documentaries like American Experience. Each of these gigs isn't just a paycheck, it's another brick in the foundation of brand Freeman. And here's where it gets really interesting. Freeman's not just doing voiceover work, he's doubling up. Take movies like War of the Worlds and The Bucket List. Freeman acted in these flicks, sure, but he also narrated them. That's 2 paychecks for one project, and you better believe he's negotiating those deals like a boss. But the real genius of Freeman's voice hustle, it's all about diversification. He's not just sticking to commercials and movies. Freeman's cornered the market on nature documentaries, earning himself the title Voice of the Animals for his work on films like March of the Penguins and The Long Way Home. Every time you hear that familiar voice explaining the mating habits of emperor penguins, cha-ching, more money in Freeman's pocket. Now, Freeman's pretty tight-lipped about his exact earnings from voice work, but when you add up all these gigs, the commercials, the documentaries, the movie narrations, we're talking about some serious cash. It wouldn't be crazy to think that Freeman's voice alone is pulling in millions each year. And the best part, it's way less work than filming a movie. Freeman can roll into a studio, read some lines, and walk out with a fat check. Talk about working smarter, not harder. But here's the real kicker. Freeman's voice isn't just making him money directly. It's become such a recognizable part of his brand that it's opening doors for him all over the place. When people hear Morgan Freeman's voice, they think authority, they think trustworthiness. And in the business world, that's worth its weight in gold. So next time you hear Morgan Freeman's voice on your TV, remember, you're not just listening to a great actor. You're listening to a business genius who's turned his greatest asset into a gold mine. Freeman's proving that in Hollywood, it's not just about what you can do on screen. Sometimes the real money is in what you can do with a microphone and 30 seconds of airtime. But if you think Freeman's business savvy stops at voice work, you're in for a shock. This man's got investments that'll make your head spin. We're talking cutting-edge tech startups, companies that could change the world as we know it. And Freeman? He's right there, quietly backing them with his Hollywood millions. But that's a whole other story. Freeman's silent tech investments. Morgan Freeman tech mogul. Sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you the guy who played God in movies is now playing God in Silicon Valley? Freeman's been quietly pouring millions into startups that could revolutionize everything from how we communicate to how we travel. And the craziest part? This might be his biggest payday yet. Yeah, you heard that right. The man who's been narrating our documentaries and bringing gravitas to our blockbusters has been silently building a tech empire on the side. It's like finding out your grandpa's been day trading crypto while you thought he was just watching Wheel of Fortune. Now you might be thinking, Freeman, in tech, isn't he a bit old school for that? And sure, on the surface it seems like a weird fit. This is a guy who's more associated with smooth voiceovers than Silicon Valley startups. But that's exactly what makes Freeman's move so genius. While everyone's been focused on his on-screen persona, he's been making power moves in the tech world. So, what kind of companies has Freeman been backing? We're talking cutting-edge stuff here. One of his biggest investments is in Zuckerberg Media. Yeah, that's Zuckerberg. It's a company founded by Randy Zuckerberg, sister of Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. They're all about creating innovative content at the intersection of tech and media. Freeman saw the potential there early on, and you can bet he's reaping the rewards now. But Freeman's not just throwing his money at any old tech company with a flashy pitch deck. Nah, he's got a strategy. He's focusing on companies that are trying to make a real difference in the world. Take ClickSwitch, for example. It's a fintech startup that makes it easier for people to switch banks. Might not sound sexy, but it's the kind of practical tech that can seriously improve people's lives. And here's where Freeman's star power really comes into play. When a celebrity invests in a startup, it's not just about the money. It's about the buzz, the attention, the credibility. Imagine you're a small tech company trying to make it big. Now imagine being able to say, oh yeah, Morgan Freeman believes in us. Suddenly you're not just another startup. You're the company Morgan freaking Freeman chose to back. This celebrity boost can be huge for startups. It can help them attract more investors, get media attention, and even recruit top talent. And for Freeman, it means his investments have a better chance of succeeding, which could lead to some serious returns. Now, Freeman's keeping pretty quiet about the details of his tech portfolio. He's not out there bragging about his investments or tweeting about the latest tech trends. But that's just Freeman's style. Always understated, always classy. But make no mistake, this silence doesn't mean his investments aren't making noise in the tech world. So what's Freeman's tech portfolio worth? It's hard to say for sure, but let's do some back-of-the-napkin math. Top-tier angel investors can see returns of 10x or even 100x on their investments. If Freeman's put, say, $10 million into various tech startups over the years, which is probably a conservative estimate, and even a couple of those investments hit it big, we could be talking about a tech portfolio worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's the kicker. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg. For every investment we know about, there could be several more that Freeman's keeping under wraps. It's like he's building a secret tech empire right under our noses. But you know what's really interesting about Freeman's tech investments? They're not just about making money. A lot of the companies he's backing are trying to make the world a better place in some way. It's like Freeman's found a way to combine his business savvy with his desire to do good. And speaking of doing good, Freeman's tech investments are just one part of his strategy to make a positive impact on the world. In fact, his next move might be his most impressive yet. We're talking about philanthropy on a massive scale, the kind of giving that could change lives and shape communities. But that's a whole other story, and trust me, it's one you won't want to miss. Philanthropy, Freeman's brand-boosting good deeds. Freeman's been dropping millions on charity like it's pocket change, but get this, he might be making even more from his good deeds. Yeah, you heard that right. The man who played God on screen could be turning his real-life angel act into a gold mine. But how's he pulling off this philanthropic magic trick? Let's start with Freeman's biggest charitable move, the Tallahatchie River Foundation. Originally called the Rock River Foundation, Freeman rebranded it to focus on education in Mississippi. This ain't just some random celeb throwing money at a cause. Nah, Freeman's zeroing in on his home state, showing he's all about that local love. But here's where things get interesting. While Freeman's out there trying to change lives, He's also changing his own image. See, when celebs do good, people start seeing them differently. Suddenly, Freeman ain't just the guy with the smooth voice. He's a caring, socially responsible dude. And in Hollywood, that kind of rep is worth its weight in gold. Now, Freeman's not the type to brag about his charity work. He likes to keep things on the down low. But don't think for a second that this modesty isn't working in his favor. In a world where every celeb is shouting about their good deeds on social media, Freeman's quiet approach stands out. It makes his philanthropy seem more genuine, more real. And let's talk about the money side of things. When big-time celebs like Freeman donate to charity, they're not just being nice, they're also getting some sweet tax benefits. We're talking major deductions that can save them millions come tax season. It's like the government's way of saying, thanks for helping out. Here's a little something for your trouble. But Freeman's philanthropy game goes beyond just writing checks. Remember that 124-acre ranch we talked about earlier? Well, Freeman turned that into a wild bee sanctuary. Yeah, you heard right. The guy's out there saving the bees. It's the kind of move that shows Freeman's not just about throwing money at problems. He's getting his hands dirty, or should we say sticky, to make a difference. All these good deeds, they're adding up to create a Morgan Freeman brand that's about more than just acting. He's positioning himself as a thought leader, an environmentalist, a champion for education. And in today's world, where consumers care about more than just a celebrity's latest movie, that kind of reputation is priceless. Think about it. When companies are looking for a spokesperson, who are they going to go for? The party-hard celeb with a messy reputation, or the guy who's out there trying to save the world? Freeman's philanthropy isn't just making the world better, it's making him more marketable. But here's the real kicker. Freeman's charitable work aligns perfectly with the roles he often plays on screen. The wise mentor, the voice of reason, the moral compass. His real-life good deeds reinforce his on-screen persona, creating a powerful feedback loop that boosts his brand even further. So while Freeman might be giving away millions, he's potentially earning even more in return. Not in direct cash, mind you, but in brand value, in marketability, in the kind of reputation that opens doors and creates opportunities. It's a masterclass in personal branding, all wrapped up in the guise of doing good. But if you think Freeman's business savvy stops at philanthropy, you're in for a shock. This man's got a whole other empire that's been quietly growing right under our noses. We're talking prime real estate, properties that'll make your jaw drop. And trust me, when you hear about Freeman's real estate portfolio, you'll never look at him the same way again. Freeman's real estate empire. You thought Freeman was just a Hollywood star, but he's been playing a whole different game on the down low. This Oscar winner's got a secret talent for flipping properties that'd make real estate moguls jealous. But here's the kicker. His holdings ain't just about making bank. Freeman's real estate empire tells a story that's way more interesting than any script he's ever read. Freeman's got this massive 124-acre ranch in Mississippi, right? But that's just the start. This man's property portfolio is so stacked, it's like he's collecting houses the way some people collect movie memorabilia. We're talking prime real estate that'd make your average millionaire green with envy. Now you might be thinking, Freeman with a bunch of fancy houses? No way. And that's exactly what makes this so wild. Freeman's got this whole humble, down-to-earth vibe going on. He's not out there flaunting his wealth like some celebs, but behind the scenes, he's building a real estate empire that's seriously impressive. Let's break it down. That Mississippi ranch we mentioned, it ain't just any old piece of land. Freeman's turned it into a freaking bee sanctuary. Yeah, you heard that right. While other celebs are buying private islands, Freeman's out here saving the bees. But don't think for a second that this eco-friendly move ain't smart business too. With the growing interest in ecotourism and sustainable practices, Freeman's ranch could be worth way more than your average piece of Mississippi farmland. But Freeman's property game ain't just about his ranch. Remember that blues club we talked about earlier? Ground Zero in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Yeah, Freeman owns that building too. It's not just a business. It's a piece of prime real estate in a town that's becoming a hotspot for music tourism. And here's where things get really interesting. The real estate market in Mississippi, especially in areas like Clarksdale, where Freeman's got property, is heating up. We're talking about a growing interest in ecotourism and sustainable practices. And guess who's perfectly positioned to cash in on this trend? That's right, Morgan freaking Freeman. No, but don't think Freeman's just sticking to his home state. Nah, this man's got a diverse portfolio that spans across the country. While we don't know all the details, Freeman's pretty tight-lipped about his personal life. Rumors have been swirling about properties in New York and Los Angeles. And knowing Freeman's business savvy, you can bet these ain't no ordinary houses. Now, putting a number on Freeman's real estate empire ain't easy. He keeps his cards close to his chest, and property values can fluctuate faster than box office numbers on opening weekend. But when you add up the ranch, the commercial properties, and any other houses he might own, we're talking tens of millions of dollars easy, maybe even more. But here's the thing that really sets Freeman apart. His real estate moves ain't just about making money. They're a reflection of who he is. The ranch shows his commitment to the environment. The Blues Club property demonstrates his love for music and his roots. Each piece of Freeman's real estate portfolio tells a story about the man behind the investments. It's like Freeman's taken his acting skills and applied them to real estate. He's not just buying properties, he's crafting a narrative, creating a legacy that goes beyond his films. And in true Freeman style, he's doing it all without making a big fuss. So next time you're watching a Morgan Freeman movie, remember, you're not just seeing a great actor, you're watching a savvy businessman, a secret real estate mogul who's been quietly building an empire right under our noses. And if his past moves are anything to go by, Freeman's probably got a few more real estate surprises up his sleeve. But if you think Freeman's business acumen stops at property, hold on to your hats. 'Cause his next venture, it's going to take you from real estate to real food. Freeman's about to show us he's got skills in the kitchen that rival his skills on screen. And trust me, this next chapter in the Freeman Empire is going to leave you hungry for more. From the big screen to the dinner table. From red carpets to white tablecloths, Morgan Freeman's next move was his boldest yet. He opened a high-end restaurant in small-town Mississippi that had food critics raving. But in the world of fine dining, even a voice like butter can't guarantee success. The story of Medidi is a roller coaster ride you won't want to miss. Back in 2001, while most celebs were busy launching overpriced vodkas, Freeman took a different path. He teamed up with his best bud Bill Luckett to open Medidi, an upscale joint right in the heart of Clarksdale, Mississippi. Now you might be thinking Mississippi for fine dining, but that's exactly what made this move so gutsy. Freeman and Luckett weren't just opening a restaurant, they were trying to fill a gap in the local food scene, bringing a touch of gourmet class to the birthplace of the blues. Medidi wasn't your average celebrity vanity project. This place was serving up some serious eats. We're talking gourmet dishes inspired by Southern cuisine, the kind of food that'd make your taste buds do a happy dance. And people were eating it up, literally. Medidi was pulling in locals, tourists, and blues lovers from all over, all eager to get a taste of Freeman's culinary vision. But here's the thing about celebrity restaurants. They're like tightrope walking without a net. The restaurant biz is tough enough as it is, with about 60% of new spots crashing and burning in their first year. And when you slap a celeb's name on the door, those expectations shoot through the roof. Suddenly it's not just about the food, it's about the whole experience. People come in expecting to see stars, both on the plate and maybe even at the next table. For a while, Medidi was living up to the hype. Critics were raving, customers were happy, and it seemed like Freeman had struck gold again. But running a restaurant isn't like making a movie. You can't yell cut when things go wrong, and there's no post-production to fix your mistakes. Every night is opening night, and one bad review can start a domino effect. As the years went by, Medidi started facing some real challenges. The economy took a hit, and suddenly folks weren't so keen on dropping big bucks on fancy meals. Even in good times, keeping an upscale restaurant afloat in a small town ain't easy. And Medidi, it was fighting an uphill battle. In 2012, after 11 years of serving up Southern-inspired gourmet cuisine, Medidi closed its doors for good. It was a tough blow for Freeman and Luckett, who had poured their hearts and a whole lot of cash into the place. But in true Freeman style, he took it all in stride. In interviews, he's talked about Medidi as a dream project, acknowledging that while it didn't work out in the end, it was still a worthwhile adventure. So what did Freeman learn from his foray into the restaurant world? Well, for one, he got a crash course in the brutal realities of the hospitality industry. It's one thing to play a character on screen. It's another to manage staff, deal with suppliers, and keep customers happy night after night. But more than that, the Medidi experience seems to have sharpened Freeman's business instincts. Since Medidi's closure, Freeman's business moves have been more calculated, more diverse. He's spread his investments across different industries, from tech startups to his bee sanctuary. It's like he took the lesson of don't put all your eggs in one basket and ran with it. And while he hasn't sworn off the food industry entirely, remember he still owns Ground Zero Blues Club, he's not rushing to open another high-end restaurant anytime soon. But if you think Freeman's done with the business world, think again. His next move? It's all about leveraging his most valuable asset, himself. We're talking brand endorsements that'll make you see the actor in a whole new light. But that's a story for another time. The Freeman brand, cashing in on credibility. Remember that voice that could make reading a phone book sound captivating? Well, turns out it's worth millions. Morgan Freeman's got a secret weapon that's been filling his bank account, and it ain't just his acting chops. We're about to dive into how Freeman turned his trustworthy image into a goldmine. When you think of Morgan Freeman, what comes to mind? That smooth, authoritative voice, the wise, grandfatherly roles he often plays. Well, all of that adds up to more than just an impressive acting career. It's a brand, folks. And let me tell you, the Freeman brand is worth its weight in gold. Now you might be thinking, celebrity endorsements, isn't that all about flashy Instagram posts and energy drinks? But Freeman's playing a whole different game. While other celebs are out there hawking products left and right, Freeman's been selective. He's not just selling stuff, he's selling trust, authority and class. And big brands, they're willing to pay top dollar for a piece of that Freeman magic. Take Visa, for example. They didn't just want any old celebrity for their Everywhere You Want to Be campaign. They wanted Freeman's gravitas, his ability to make you feel like everything's gonna be all right, even when you're swiping your credit card, and you can bet they paid handsomely for the privilege. We're talking potential paydays north of $100,000 for major projects like this. But it ain't just Visa. Freeman's lent his voice to big players like McDonald's and Mountain Dew too, and let's not forget about his work for PBS, narrating documentaries that make you feel smarter just by listening. Each of these gigs isn't just a paycheck, it's another brick in the foundation of brand Freeman. So what makes Freeman's endorsements so valuable? It's all about that trustworthy image he's built up over decades. When Freeman speaks, people listen. It's like having God himself telling you to buy a Big Mac. Okay, maybe not quite that extreme, but you get the idea. Freeman's voice and face carry a weight that few other celebrities can match. And here's the kicker. Freeman's endorsement strategy often focuses on brands that align with his philanthropic efforts. It's like he's found a way to do good and make bank at the same time. Talk about a win-win situation. Now, Freeman's pretty tight-lipped about his exact earnings from these endorsements, but let's do some quick math. Top-tier celebrities can earn anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million per year from endorsements. And Freeman? He's not just any celebrity. With his unique brand of trust and authority, it wouldn't be surprising if he was pulling in closer to that $2 million mark, maybe even more.